I'll tell you the one thing. The only thing that matters is that Sean Penn flees to Poland on foot after calling on America to fight for Ukraine. Why? Like, this.
He already beat the game.
Because he's another example. He was very anti-war, wasn't he? In the early 2000s, was that a huge part of his shtick and his activism?
I don't know.
I'm just exhausted by this. Sean Penn, I don't know or care about you. And why are you telling us to get involved in a war with Russia, which is a nuclear power? This is the stupidest thing ever. Like, this actor guy goes to a foreign country during a war and then is like, we got to go fight for them. No, we don't. And you shouldn't have been there. I will say this. Americans are certainly arrogant. That's for sure. And, maybe most of them, in different ways. We have this contingent of the Hollywood establishment elites and the Democrat elites, and they're so full of themselves, they're so entitled. And then you also have, many other Americans, and maybe more justified arrogance, in the observation of American power and might around the world.
I was just watching a Howard Stern clip of, what's his name from Breaking Bad, the guy, Odenkirk. And he was like, and after, before he got Breaking Bad, it was so hard. I was writing and we were barely making any money and I had this big loan. And Stern was like, that must have been so hard for you. Like, he was like, I'm writing movies and taking these little acting roles and I'm in debt. And Stern's reaction that what suffering you must have been going through having to write movies and act and be in debt. I'm like, how detached these people have become from what real suffering is.
Yep.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of the peaceful protests and how a lot of people were acting really irrationally, like that mass psychosis, where now you got a bunch of people that are openly just hating Russians because they're trying to shut off cars and stop selling their products and stuff like that. It's like you're demonizing an entire population of people in the same way that people were so willing to go smash businesses and hurt people that weren't putting their fist up in the air just because they thought that they were actually doing something helpful.
Well, in some instances, they actually are vandalizing Russian-owned businesses or companies with the word Russia in the name. Like this happened in Canada, it happened in Germany. It's insane.
This is the beautiful ones.
Dude, this is
okay, so I'm going to go back to the Rat Utopia.
Yeah.
In the Rat Utopia, they put all these rats in a big box. They gave them all the food and water they wanted and then left them alone. And eventually, a group developed called the Beautiful Ones in the behavioral sink. These are people who did nothing but groom themselves. They just groomed themselves and tried to make themselves more beautiful. And that's the virtue signal. That's what we're seeing now with people like Sean Penn. Look at this tweet from him. Myself and 2 colleagues walked miles to the Polish border after abandoning our car on the side of the road. Almost all of the cars in this photo carry women and children only, most without any sign of luggage, and a car, their only possession of value. And here's they planned this photo of him walking. This is Sean Penn's vapid ego virtue signal on display. His intentions, this is my opinion of him, is that he wants his name to matter. He wants to be beautiful and seen by everyone. So he flies himself into a war zone and then makes it about him and what he's doing and we must fight. What are you doing there? Yeah. This guy has nothing to do with this, no experience here, but he wants people to see him as beautiful.
I'm getting Tropic Thunder vibes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Watched some of that last night.
But this is virtue signal to the nth degree, to the you could not virtue signal more than flying into a war zone and then being like, we abandoned our cars, fleet on foot because only women and children. Shut up.
If it was why don't you put the damn camera down and help if it's actually, this is a photo shoot to me. This is just virtue signaling.
Because in the behavioral sink, the rats or the mice, whichever, because they did both, just wanted to look beautiful. Well, beautiful to rats is just, grooming yourself and then having other rats look at you. For a male, it is peacocking. It is making yourself as boisterous and loud and visible as possible. This, to me, is the epitome of self-grooming behavioral sink. A guy with no business in this war flies in, films himself going there, posts social media of look what I'm doing. And it's just we've gotten to the point now where we have these plastic robot people. They treat all of this like a game, like a TV show. This is the most insane thing. It's just he just wants people to see him. And he wants to say, I went to Ukraine during the war. I talked to the families. The U.S. must fight. It's like, shut up. Shut your mouth. Go home, you pathetic loser.
Oh, who's that
I don't care
girl?
what you have to say about this. You have nothing to do with it.
Jane Fonda went to Vietnam, I think, and
Yep.
hung out with the Viet Cong. Is that what it
Same
was?
idea.
Jane Fonda? And the media launched on her for trying. It was basically like if someone went to Russia right now and was trying to like show some humanity about the Russian people. Jane Fonda did that in Vietnam, but they did not. People did not want that. I think this guy's an actor. You know, I've always got the vibe from Sean Penn that he really wants to help people, and so that's kind of what I was going through as a kid. And I thought, maybe I'll get into acting so that I can be famous. And then when I tell people like good ideas that I have, I'll be able to tell them to more people. And I think I've always thought Sean Penn was a pretty ethical guy, but when you're an actor, that's all you really know how to do is act. You just talk in front of a camera. That's his job. It's what he's done his whole life. I've never seen any other skills this guy has.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And it's commonly said that Americans have main character syndrome. And I commented on Twitter that our main import at this point is narcissism, because NPR was talking about how to maintain your self-composure when you're reading the news about people fleeing their homes and being bombed and stuff. And I was like, what kind of narcissism is this? It makes us think that we're the most important people. And Ian is right about Sean Penn being an actor. This picture is so clearly staged. It's kind of disturbing to think that people are actually suffering, and he is treating it like a movie.
Yeah.
And many Americans are. And they're like, oh, this crazy stuff happening, the ghost of Kiev, the Snake Island. And it's like, I wonder how much of this stuff will be proven to be false as we go on. We're just treating it like a movie. Oh, who are we going to cast as Zelensky when the movie comes around? It's like,
Jeremy Renner for sure.
no, what is wrong with us, though? Like, why have we been thinking
Look at
about
this.
that?
Zelensky's
Sean
an
Penn
actor.
arrives in Ukraine to film documentary about Russian invasion.
What?
The actor and director came to tell the world the truth about Russia's invasion of our country, says the office of Ukraine's president. Imagine being as vapid as this guy is.
He's bored.
You know, man. Yeah. You know what, man? The virtue signaling has just reached a point where it's just vomitous.
Have you guys seen Ukraine on Fire, the documentary? I have not yet. It's an Oliver Stone. So Oliver went in there. I think it was from 4 years ago he did this. This is 4 years ago. So Oliver Stone, I mean, he was talking about this stuff way before any kind of physical conflict erupted. Basically about the CIA coup in Ukraine and the installation of
2014,
Poroshenko and basically how the UN or whatever the heck this body, NATO, is pushing the borders of Russia, pushing right up against the borders of Russia. And I have a lot of respect for Oliver Stone. So you want to talk about someone in the entertainment industry that's really doing good, making documentaries about this stuff? Oliver Stone is at the tip of the spear. Maybe this will end up being really good. I don't know. I don't want to shoot it in the foot before it begins.
Goes to the president's office to officially support them, and he condemned Russia before even knowing what was going on in the country. And that's something like not even anybody at Vice would do. You know, they would go in and they would have their assumptions based on stories they read, but they wouldn't be like, we hereby declare that we're sending in journalists to uncover all the lies about the invasion. They'd be like, we're sending a reporter to see what's going on.
What's up? Yeah.
And that's about it. And then, you know, it was like, the crazy thing is Vice, as like fast and loose as it was with a lot of its journalism, took it seriously. Like one of our reporters, I think Glenn Beck criticized Vice when I was working there, because I think it was Danny Gold, one of the Vice reporters, went to Palestine during I think it might have been Operation Protective Edge, and Danny also went to Israel. You know, he went to Palestine and Israel and documented what people were going through. And Glenn Beck, I think it was Glenn, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, maybe it wasn't Glenn, but some conservative pundit criticized him, saying they're only showing what the Palestinians are going through and not what the Israelis are going through. And we were all confused by that, because we were like, Vice put out literally 2 short docs showing the Palestinian and Israeli sides of the conflict, and it wasn't really like there was it wasn't pro one side or the other. It was like, here we are, here's what's happening. So that's the issue I take with this, because certainly, you know, I've had my share of parachuting into many different countries, but we would never go in and just, you know, valiantly decry and declare we knew what was going on. In fact, when I was in Ukraine, there was British media, it wasn't publicly funded British media. It was one of their news corporations had put out fake news about a protest that was actually pro-Yanukovych. I could be getting this wrong. It's been almost 10 years. And it was a big rally of Ukrainians came out to support their president. And then some media outlet like lied about it and said it was opposing it or whatever. And we were all confused. We were like, what? They're all waving Ukrainian flags and supporting their president. But of course, the Western narrative was the Ukrainians hated Yanukovych and they didn't want the Russian regime. They wanted the EU and all that stuff. So you got the same fake news. So when I see like these vapid Hollywood actors who specifically fly into a country to tell the world to tell the truth about Russia's invasion of our country, says the Ukraine's office of Ukraine's president, and he meets with the president, and it's very clear he has an agenda. I'm like, I can't stand the lies and the propaganda. Like, there are a lot of journalists down there right now who are doing a really good job in telling people what's going on, and it does not look good for Russia. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to. You know who's cool? Trey Yingst is cool.
Who's that?
Fox News. Trey. He's I'm pretty sure he's on the ground right now in Kiev reporting.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, I've seen his name.
Yeah, he does a good job. Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
That's what a reporter does. They go down there and they say, here's what's happening.
Right.
Like, they're tweeting like air raid sirens. Like, they're not posting photos of themselves with like at an angle, with like carrying their bag. Like, I abandoned my car. We have to make it to the border. Yeah, they're not doing that. They're like wearing bulletproof vests. And like, I'm reporting here in central Kiev. Right now we're hearing, because there's journalism and then there's whatever this is, the beautiful ones of Universe 25.
This is Kony 2012, 2022. Remember that movie, Kony 2012?
Oh, man.
The propaganda campaign?
That was crazy.
I saw the stickers everywhere. I didn't know what they were.
It was Kony 2012. You guys remember? You don't remember that? It was.
I remember that.
There was this documentary. It was like a commercial, and it was the stupidest thing ever, because it was like, the digital media has allowed us to have power like more than ever before, and we can come together. And it was this big, grandiose narrative how we can all join forces and fight for the good of stopping this one guy in an African nation who's trafficking kids. Or something.
Wasn't he already dead?
And he apparently wasn't even involved anymore.
He was an evil guy. He had child soldiers or something. But yeah, I think he was already dead by the time the documentary.
I don't know if he was dead, but he was ousted already. Right. It was like not happening. But my issue was kind of like, they made this documentary that was very grandiose about like global affairs in the world. And they're like, and that's why we need your help to stop one guy you've probably never heard of in a Central African nation who's like a bad guy. But man, on our list of bad dudes, like al-Baghdadi was still like, there was ISIS.
Yeah.
Well, actually 2012, how prominent was ISIS back then? They were fairly prominent, right?
They were JB then, I think.
No.
It wasn't before ISIS.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
that was, and that was Kony before or after bin Laden?
After.
Needless to say, there were many bad people other than this one Kony.
Yeah, and it was all, let's come together. It just felt like World Economic Forum propaganda, looking back on it. I was still in the Obama brain fog at that time.
What was his plan, though? Like, what was the
well,
plan?
Then the guy who did it, like, from that organization, was, like, stripped nude and started, like, jumping up and down and banging on the pavement while gripping himself, if you know what I mean.
What?
Oh, wow, I remember
that.
What's going on? Jason Russell, the director.
Was that it?
Yeah. I'm going to look into that.
That wasn't a part of the tactics to take down.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But I'm wondering, here's what I'm wondering. What if the Kony 2012 video was the test firing of a social media manipulation tactic or weapon, basically?
Yeah.
Can we weaponize propaganda to direct everyone to do one thing? And they tried it out to see what would happen, because you got to test weapons. And it was a fifth generational warfare.
I was thinking about this actually, because technically people have the data on society as in terms of, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need to put in front of people's screens in order for them to render this type of behavior? And if you think of like all of these crazy campaigns and social media trends over the years, like one comes to mind, like that ALS ice bucket challenge and stuff. Just that and doing these different trends, you can sort of guess where you can lead society in a particular direction just by socially engineering stuff like that. So technically they have enough data to know that they can make people jump just by doing certain things.
Yeah, the Russian propaganda campaign has been going on since 2015, 16. When did that turn on? 2015?
I mean, everyone's always running propaganda campaigns. Like, every country's got it. What I'm actually wondering is, you guys have heard of Havana syndrome?
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
No.
So there are people who have reported that they'll be, like working in some government building and they'll hear a hum, and then all of a sudden they'll start getting headaches and they'll start getting blurry vision, and they get permanent like vision damage. What? And for a while, people were just like, "Oh, it must be something unrelated," and people are overreacting. But then the White House got hit by Havana syndrome.
Really?
So it may be some kind of directed energy weapon meant to cause long-term damage to a person. Because think about it this way: if you're engaged in a war with a long-term plan, you could be thinking, this person could probably be a threat. Cause damage to them now so they don't last 5 or 10 years in this industry. Diminish the amount of time they have so they're not a threat to you in the future. That's the kind of crazy stuff we're seeing. But here's what I was thinking with Russia. Do you guys really believe that nuclear weapons are the pinnacle of military might these days?
Not anymore.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, weapons of mass destruction, generally speaking, but we can also talk about biological weapons, chemical weapons, that kind of thing.
No,
I think
not
it
even
goes
that.
deeper than
Laser
that.
weaponry.
I think if you know what it is, then it's not the
That
pinnacle
ain't
of
it.
weapons
Oh,
technology.
I hear you.
We didn't know about nukes, Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
There was speculation.
Right, until they got used, right?
Yep. So there was a report that came out where it was like, what could they be building? Some thought it was like a death ray, like a beam that would cause damage. They didn't know for sure because all of these different areas were working on specific things and then journalists couldn't put it together. So if the U.S. Or any country has something, one of the arguments put forward is that we would see the infrastructure operation. You'd see the trucks bringing certain materials to certain areas and bringing them underground. You'd know they'd be building something. But you don't know what they'd be building. So is it cyber? Is it influential? Is it psychological manipulation? Or is it possible that, like, we even understand the concept of rods from God. That's a giant satellite. It's a satellite holding giant tungsten rods. It drops them and they slam into the earth and they're like more powerful than nukes. Could they have something more powerful than even that?
I think
because they wouldn't tell us.
I think that tiny micro drones that can fly into people's ears are pretty dangerous. I don't know about that. I know. I don't either. That's the problem.
But that's a good point.
I can visualize
because it's in your ear, Tim. That's why you don't know.
That's a good point, right? Like
Black Mirror
I'm so
episode.
ready to dismiss the idea of micro drones flying in your ear and like killing you or whatever. But that's actually a good idea. We would not know, and we would think it was crazy if like a CIA officer was just like, the U.S. micro drones fly in your ear, kill you like that.
Yes.
We'd be like, shut up.
Yep.
Not true. Because we wouldn't believe it.
I remember, I think it was 2004. I was like, they can fly a drone into a window and hurt someone? Like, it was like groundbreaking, the concept of being able to literally
Yeah.
like...
I don't know if you guys remember the Black Mirror episode, but the way they introduced these tiny lethal drones was because the bees died. I was like, oh, well, we have bees that are dying. That's so interesting. What if we decide to try to fix this problem with these little drones that can activate if your social credit score is low or something like that? And that's what ended up happening in that episode.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.